Deb, it is so great to see you today. It's been a little while. So how have you been? How have you been?
I've been good. And, I am so appreciative of you as the toner queen that we have a printer mess here right now. So I was hoping to pick your brain today. I know I had sent you an email with a couple of bits of information of it, but could I tour you through our, I feel like this is one of those like HGTV shows, like home toner printer edition of what's going on.
I love it.
Okay. So this is our home office. My husband and I, between us, we have 4 businesses operating. Some are seasonal, like he runs a snowplow business. We have a farm. I do my, website and marketing and communications. So wonderfully, but this is actually the sitting room to the master bedroom. I don't know who needs a sitting room. God bless those people out there that do it. But, so this is our like mess. You can see, the cat is in place. Of course, I told you the cats like to sit on the printer sometimes, so we have to be aware of that. You can see the bedroom and the laundry, behind, but here we have the gorgeous mess of it all. It's dusty. We have this paper always here to cover it at night because it glows so brightly. Like it's like the biggest nightlight as possible. We've had this for like 2.5 years. And quite honestly, the printing is awful. Like black and white is fine, but the color has never justified itself. We've called the manufacturer. We've sent back, the little cartridges and nothing has ever been there. But quite honestly, we have 2 teenagers, so they've been virtual learning. We have our needs and, we know that we need an upgrade because what we've been trying to get away with certainly isn't happening. We need scanning, printing. We don't need faxing, copying, all that kind of stuff. So what do you do when you just don't know what to do? Because going to stores is overwhelming. So what's the process?
It is. And, I feel for you because you go shopping online or you do walk into a big box store and half the time they don't have something in stock. And it's because of this COVID pandemic where everyone is working from home, everyone's been upgrading their machines. Right. So you go online and these are models that are brand new to market and they don't have them. And so you're constantly having to, like I do it every day too for my own clients. I'm looking at Staples and Amazon to see where something is in stock that I know they need of, just to, how fast can they get it, basically kind of a thing. So I feel for you. Here's the home-based printing. I am not a huge fan of inkjet printers, okay. Office jets, photo smarts, all of those that, Epson makes a lot, bubble jets with Canon. I'm not a fan of using inkjet at home, even for business, because if you're not actually printing on an inkjet printer daily, your print heads can dry up. And that's where you start to see weird print quality problems with streaking or just the ink is just not flowing right. And so you're having to clean the print heads, which wastes about 25% of your ink every time you do that, and paper. Right. So for me, even though LaserJet printers are typically more expensive of a machine, you actually end up, you pay that upfront cost at the beginning, but you end up saving way more on your cartridge supplies, your toner cartridges. They last you way longer and you never have to worry about dry print heads or having to do cleaning cycles, like that kind of weird stuff. Like it should just work when you want it to work. You shouldn't have to baby it or do any of those things. So I'm a real big fan of Brother multifunctions. I've owned Brother multifunctions for like a decade. Different versions of their monochrome black and white and their color. I've been using their color for probably about 5 years now and I love them. HP makes a lot of great ones too. So does Lexmark. So really just, in learning about what your needs are, what your business needs are and home life needs too for, your at home learning with your kids. There are some great options for you, especially the last few years. Manufacturers have been producing some very well-priced laser multifunctions that can get you upgraded from your home printer. Awesome. And get you into something that's a lot more functional for what you guys use. So I've got a couple of different options I want to show you today. We can talk about, their different features and whatnot. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
Share your screen. As you can see, the cat is very much intent on what their options are going to be to sit on. So
it's a seat warmer. He's really looking out for your best interest, because who wants a cold tushy? Nobody.
That's right. That's right.
All right, so I'm sharing my screen and I created this little deck for you. So, because Deb Kalidas, entrepreneur extraordinaire, because you are like a superwoman when it comes to everything that you do. I don't even know how you do it. You're so
long, day by
all
day,
over the place, but in a good way. I mean,
good. Thank you.
All the things that you accomplish is amazing. Like you're an inspiration to me for sure.
Too much.
Okay, so these were kind of some of the things that we had talked about that you were interested in. Obviously, upgrading your old printer. You wanted to have it print in both black and white, which black and white is monochrome, and also color. You wanted it to print, scan, and copy. I know you mentioned that you don't need faxing, but honestly, the last like 5 years, manufacturers kind of throw in fax now, even though like hardly anyone faxes anything. It's almost like it's harder to find a machine that doesn't fax.
It's so funny because like we don't even have a working phone line in the house that we
I know. It's really funny. A lot of people are, even businesses are like, they're the same way, or they use e-faxing. So it's, and we have this thing called email. So faxing is kind of not needed anymore, but it's still included as a bonus offer. Yes. Let's see. One of the things you mentioned was you wanted it to be able to print and scan in legal size paper. So I made sure.
Auto document feeder. That's huge.
Yep. It does have an AEF. A couple of them have different, the amount of pages you can fill in the ADF, but they're both very good as far as the function goes. And then we need to be able to handle, the print jobs for 4 successful home-based businesses and 2 school-age teens. So, I mean, right there, that really gave me an idea of what you were looking for. And of course, I can't forget the cats, wanting to perch it and make sure that you're, they were like your boss, kind of like making sure.
That's right. Making sure, watching over me.
Absolutely. So I came up with absolutely. So I came up with a couple of models that I thought would work for you. One's an HP, one's by Brother. They're both color multifunctions. One's the MFP M283. That's HP's version. It does everything. Both of them are also wireless and networked. So if you have USB or you have an Ethernet port, they all have that now. They can both print in legal and scan in legal as well. They both have high yield cartridges available, which that was one thing I also take a look at when I look at equipment for my clients is, I don't want the base model. I want a model where the higher, which are physically bigger cartridges can fit. Yeah. That's where your total cost of ownership kind of comes into play after you've bought the machine is the cost of your supplies. Okay. And then I took a look at cost. I kind of wanted to stay within a range and not be too extravagant because there's a lot of things with the bigger machines you just don't need. Yeah. So the retail cost, I was kind of looking around. HP Staples and Amazon has this model in stock for about $450. You can get it within 1 or 2 days, and I can send you the links where if you're interested in the HP printer where I found it. The Brother one, however, I only found it at a couple places. Brother is actually out of stock, which is why I mentioned that earlier, because it's such a popular machine, and it's popular not only for the functions that it does, but in the types of supplies that are available for it, because it not only has the standard yield cartridges, it has high yield and extra high yield. And that is where you're going to be reaping a huge amount of savings based on what you print. Even if you use the high yield and not even the extra high yield, you're probably only going to order toner once a year, which is like $200.
Wow. Okay. No, that's huge because like we have to, it was a pretty neat concept when we bought that one where you actually pay for a subscription. Yes. So this communicates with HP to let them know. And it was great because it was never like, oh man, we're out of toner, we can't print now. Like it was always here. So to know that there's that extended ability and how good are these machines and the technology that then warn you how many pages are left.
Oh, absolutely. Most manufacturers, I know this most of my clients have HP and Brother in use in their own office spaces. The typical industry standard is whenever the toner life reaches about 20% is when you're going to see that toner life low message. Okay. And depending on how much you print is how much time you have left. So the average user who's not printing reams and reams a day can expect 7 to 10 days, maybe 2 weeks before it actually reaches 0%. Right. And you'll start to notice as you get closer to 5% life, the prints will be a little bit faded. The nice thing about toner is that because it's a powder, you can actually take the cartridge out and give it a good shake to and fro and then pop it back in. Because what happens is the toner powder, it's like very fine makeup powder. It gets stuck to the inside of all the nooks and crannies in the compartment of the toner that the cartridge is in.
I remember doing that in college to like the central printer, and like we would do it. So that's
it's like the cartridge shimmy, have fun with it.
That's great.
So you can, squeak by, sometimes for an extra day or two by doing that kind of thing.
Okay.
The differences between these two machines, supply wise, also is there's a part in a toner cartridge typically that's called the imaging drum. And that's actually how the image gets, it's where the image comes from that gets laid on the paper as it goes through the path. With HP, a lot of their printers, the drum roller, the imaging roller is built into the toner cartridge. It kind of depends on which series family of printers that they built. Sometimes it's a separate piece. Sometimes it's built into the toner. With Brother, the toner and the drum are two separate things. And the nice thing about that is with HP, for example, the drum lives usually have maybe 3 times the amount of life to them that a toner cartridge would. So if your toners are 5,000, your drum is going to be about a 15,000 page yield. So theoretically, every 2 to 3 cartridges, you're going to have to replace the drum, and that gets expensive. With Brother, and this is kind of why I've been sticking with them myself for all this time, is these drums last forever. Nice. Like, I've had this machine for 2 years and I still have 50% life left on the drum. And even still, the drum's not expensive. I think it's like $70. Oh, okay. It's not even, it's not like, buying a new machine or anything like that, but it's just like one less supply that you have to order, on a regular basis. You're basically just be ordering the toner and you're gonna be good to go.
So if I can kind of summarize my understanding of what you're instilling on me on your awesome knowledge is, it's kind of like when you're buying a car, you're not just buying the vehicle, but you got to look at your mileage, your user wear, the warranty and all this. So really in comparison, trying to compare apples to apples here within the HP and Brother, they're both going to print something that's great. However, the Brother has a value because of the cost of, upkeep and everything else like that. So that's invaluable.
Absolutely. And Brother machines are so user-friendly too. There's not a whole lot you have to do to them. You're not going to see error codes popping up and that kind of stuff because they're just more user-friendly for normal people, and not as complicated as HP or Lexmark or IBM equipment that are out there. Now, this Brother is priced a little bit higher. However, like I mentioned before, where you're going to actually be seeing your money and the recurring costs is in the cost of your toner. So I'll get to that next slide in a second. But I just wanted to, make sure your cat understood that I was really taking his interests at heart. So I did a quick comparison side by side of the different capabilities of these printers, and both of them have a pretty optimal size cat perch available.
Cat perch on top. That's right.
These couple of areas, yes. So I think either way, I think your cat will be fine.
He'll be fine.
The one thing I liked about the Brother 2 over the HP is while they both have ADF or auto document feeders, the Brother can handle 70 pages. Okay. Whereas the HP can only do 50. So if you're running a bunch of scans or you're going to be making a bunch of copies, it's just that much extra paper that you don't have to, stop and put back in the ADF. Talking about the toner, this is, kind of just talking a little bit more about the nuts and bolts like we talked about. So with the M283, it's a relatively new printer family for HP. It's been selling really well, so I know it's like a pretty solid printer. As I mentioned before, it does have high yield cartridges available for it. And for the size of the printer, the high yield cartridge page yields are actually pretty decent. On the black, you get 3,500. On each of the colors, you get about 2,450, 2,500, roughly about. And the page yields are all in the industry. There's an industry standard. It's based on 5% coverage. So if you were going to take a 8 by 11 sheet of paper and double space, with 14-point font down the page, that's basically 5%. Okay. If you're printing spreadsheets or you're printing things in color like logos, expect that coverage to increase, which means your normal use is more than what the industry standard is. So you might not see 3,500 pages, you might see 3,000, but that's what your normal is, and that's totally okay. Cost, you know, for the supplies, the black high yield I found online was around $95, which if you think about the cost per page, you're still way less as a cost per page of what you pay for ink. I know you mentioned before.
Yeah, no. And that's a huge value, right? Because we have wasted so much ink, you know, sometimes trying to get something right or something like that. And I can definitely see why I'm going to switch over to what you have here. But yeah, I mean, even in just reflecting upon the price of the machine versus the output of what I'm going to be able to get per value. It's funny because there's been so many times where I've had to go to Staples and pay like the $80 to get color copies because I couldn't get it here. This pays for itself just through that.
It will. And I think you guys will be really happy with it too. Same thing with the color. You know, usually an inkjet cartridge, the black tends to be around anywhere from 25 to 30 cents a page. When you're talking about the color is like 35 to 40 cents a page. When you talk about laser, you're cutting that way down. I mean, you're looking at like, you know, 3 cents a page for your black, you know, 4 cents a page for your color. So right there, you're already seeing a pretty decent saving. And that's even using the genuine HP OEM brand ink, you know, toner cartridge. Right. On our Brother, the L8900 series, there's actually, like I mentioned before, there's actually 3 series of toners that you can use in this machine. One's the standard yield, one's the high yield, and one is Brother's extra high yield, which I'm so happy that they did this with like 3 or 4 different printer families, because it just helps make that machine even that much more cost effective. I mean, it's pretty awesome.
That's incredible.
The high yield black normally is 4,500. If you get the extra, you're bumping that up to 6,500. You know, you're getting actually the same yield on the extra high yield with the color. So all your colors are all the same cost per page, which is, I mean, you look at this price right here, it's less than a penny a page.
No, that's crazy.
I mean, you can't get cheaper than that.
So here's a question. And what is nice, again, when we bought this, it was kind of like when all the new technology was coming out that you could log into the back end of your printer, see exactly how many pages you're printing, like what's going on. So I'm going to be able to log in and compare this to, and I have a feeling that we are under this amount, because while we do it for businesses and we do so much as digital in what we're able to produce, we don't have to actually print it. However, I think if I had this, I'd print more just to be doing it. But do these dry out ever? Like, I mean, we use our printer multiple times, you know, a week and everything. So it's never just sitting there. But if you're under that, is there like an expiration on these that you should switch it out no matter what?
No, you're not going to have that problem. And that's the inherent issue with inkjet printers is there's liquid ink. It's liquid on the inside there's a water component to that pigment. And what happens to liquid over time is it evaporates. So the shelf life of a typical inkjet cartridge, whether it's a genuine brand or compatible third party, is about 6 months. And they put it, there's a date on the box of the little box. If you actually look at it, there's a date on there, and it's 6 months from when the cartridge was produced. Toner cartridges, there's no shelf life. It's because it's already dry powder. So you're not having to, I didn't use my printer I was on vacation for 3 weeks in Jamaica and I didn't get a chance to use my printer. You're not going to have to worry about having to do cleaning cycles to clean anything. It's going to work exactly the way that it did before you left.
Well, this is what I would love to do. And if it's okay, I'm going to stop sharing for the moment.
Yep, absolutely.
Is I think we're going to go ahead and we're going to order the Brother, which is great. So I'll go ahead and go through that process. Probably need to order from you. Let's do the super high yield. If this stuff is going to last, then let's load it up and use it. And then I would love to do an unboxing with you, like when it arrives.
That would be fun.
Let's get this up and everything like that. And we'll see, and then we'll get it printing and all that kind of stuff. And then I will definitely report back to let you know how things are going. But thank you so much for taking the time, because it's these simple business decisions that you keep neglecting, right? And then you print something and you're like, I need to do this, but you haven't done this because, well, you don't know the information. So for anybody who's made it thus far in this awesome video here, and they have printer questions or need a consultation like this, do you charge for this kind of thing? Like what kind of, you know, how can individuals take advantage of you more and all of your ultimate knowledge?
I do not charge for this service. I provide it to all my customers. I've actually had people who were in businesses who were just referred to me because of clients of mine, where I literally just helped them find equipment that they needed that was going to work for their the functions in their office or they're at home. And they're not even my customer. They just needed help because there's so many different, there's different manufacturers, there's different equipment. People aren't thinking about the supply cost. And like you said before, you knew you needed to do something about the printer that you had because it wasn't working, right? But you didn't have the time to do it. And printers should just work when you need them to work. If the last thing on your job of your list of priorities that you do every day is to think about your printer, because you shouldn't have to think about your printer. You shouldn't have to think about your supplies and that kind of stuff. So I'm happy to help anyone who has a question with finding something that will work in their office or finding something that will work from home, and just helping them navigate that kind of space. Because especially right now with COVID, there are new machines coming out like every 3 to 4 months, it seems like, with the different manufacturers. So it's constantly changing right now because the landscape of office supplies and printing needs have been changing so much in the last 12 to 18 months. So anyone who wants to reach out, I'm happy to help.
Awesome. Because I'm just doing the simple math of knowing how this is so going to pay for itself. And then immediately we're going to be saving like hundreds of dollars a year on stuff. And you take that and multiply that. If you have an organization with X number of employees, that's incredible.
Absolutely.
Well, again, thank you so much, Toner Queen. Heather, it's an absolute pleasure with things. And yeah, I'll be in touch as this printer arrives and we can do an unboxing and make sure the cat fits appropriately on top of the machine.
That sounds great. Thanks a lot, Deb, for your time. Have a good rest of your day.
Thanks, Heather.
Bye.